Hi, this is Dr. Subhatra. In this session, I am going to discuss about the coastal regulation zone and its relevance. What is a coastal regulation zone? It is actually a boundary from the high tide line up to 500 meters in the landward side. It is the area between the low tide line and the high tide line. See, in case of rivers, creeks and backwaters, the distance from the high tide line shall apply on both the sides. When rivers means we will have on both the sides, we will have the bank. So on both the sides, the coastal regulation zone is applied for about 100 meters or the width of the river. Whichever is less, we can take that area as the coastal regulation zone. These regulation zones, among other things, permit how much development is permitted in that area or already developed or partly developed in that area, that everything is given in that coastal regulation zone. Only after getting permission from that or approval from that CRZ, zone 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is, only the development is permitted to that extent. So high tide line means the highest water line reaches during the spring tide. The lowest water level line is the low tide line. Seashore means the area of sandy, stony and rocky land in the border. That is the area between a high tide line and the low tide line. We'll call it as a seashore. So what are the areas under coastal regulation zone? The land area from the high tide line to 500 meters. So your picture is shown here. This is the sea portion and this is the land portion. The high tide line in the sea is this one, which is marked here. So from the high tide line to the land portion, take 500 meters. This 500 meters will come under the coastal regulation zone. So what are the developments that can be permitted, or the structures that can be built or destroyed, or whether we are able to disturb this region or not? Everything comes under this coastal regulation zone. Okay. So the construction methods in the coastal regulation zones should preferably be down on stilts so as to prevent the house from high tide and the low tides, which can lead to destructions. So at the shore portion, the building the houses is not permitted. Raising the houses on stilts not only prevents the tides but also helps in proper ventilation inside the house. Okay, so the development is permitted only at this level. So after this region, foundation to a certain height made by means of bricks to give the maximum support during the high tide level. It should be elevated. So what are the different categories of coastal regulation zone? First thing is CRZ1. The areas that are ecologically sensitive, geomorphological features which play a role in maintaining the integrity of the coast. So to maintain the integrity of coast, CRZ1 is there. Mangroves or the mangrove area is more than 1000 square meters, a buffer of 50 meters. Coral and coral reefs and associated biodiversity, sand dunes, mudflats which are biologically active, national park, marine park sanctuaries, reserve forest, wildlife habitat, and all the mangroves which are provided under the Act of Wildlife Act, Forest Act, Environmental Protection Act in the following years. So all are coming under the CRZ1. And also salt marshes. See here the picture shows the coral reef. This is a mud flat, horseshoe crabs habitat, sea grass beds, nesting grounds of birds. So all these things are protected by means of CRZ1. Then what is CRZ2? It is telling about the areas that have been developed up to or close to the shoreline. So developed areas are the area within the existing municipal limit or in other existing legally designated urban areas which are substantially built up and are provided with proper drainage. See here, this is a water portion, and here this is a shore, sand portion. And when there is an existing road, as shown in the picture, as like our Marina Beach. See here, the existing road is here. Here the buildings are permitted in the landward side, which should have a proper drainage and approach road on other infrastructural facilities like water supply, sewerage mains, etc. Then what is CRZ3? The areas that are relatively undisturbed. That is, buildings are only permitted on the landward side if there is an existing road close proximity to the coastal line. So what is CRZ4? The water area from the low tide line to the 12 nautical miles on the seaward side. We'll call it as CRZ4. See here, the water is here from the low tide line. From low tide line to up to 12 nautical miles. This is 12 miles. From low tide line to 12 nautical miles on the seaward side. So this is called as CRZ4. Here what is permitted and what is not permitted is given in this regulation. Coming to the relevance, to ensure the livelihood security to the fishing communities, how much fishing is permitted, what size of net has to be used, how to protect the coastal stretches. So starting from the roadside, land side to the 12 nautical miles inside the sea, CRZ regulations have been formed. So what is the development promoted and how to conserve it? So everything has been given in this CRZ. So everything I have taken from this slide share which I have shown in the reference. Thank you.